Witchmas, aka October. So this month on That Fiction Life, there will be many supernatural, paranormal thingy videos. Today we're talking about A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. In my new favourite adult book, so many thoughts. I'm going to do a non-spoiler section for you because obviously I want everyone to read this book now and talk to me about it because I desperately need a support group. This book is generally all I think about these days. I would love it if you subscribed so we can talk about books and movies and TV shows together, as that is what my channel is about. Feel free to leave comments any point throughout this video. Please let me know your thoughts. I want to know everything. Except spoilers. Don't spoil, please, books 2 and 3 because I've not read them. That will come in later videos, don't you worry. I will tell you when the spoiler section and the long depth discussion is coming. Let's begin. So this book, of course, follows witches, but it also has various other supernatural creatures like vampires, demons. We follow Diana Bishop, who is a witch. One day, as you do, she meets this vampire called Matthew Claremont. And I know what you're thinking. Is this about to become a forbidden romance book? Yes, it is. And the best of its kind. There is this special historical book called the Ashmole 782, which everyone has been after for a very long time. And our main protagonist, Diana, happens to take this book out. Even though it has been missing for centuries, she manages to take it out. At Oxford at the Bodleian, where she's currently doing research, Diana is a professor of history and all these fun things. If you're a history fan, this book is literally just the best thing. This book supposedly explains why the supernatural creatures are diminishing in the human world, and Matthew Claremont, who is a scientist who is trying to figure this out, is also after the book. So when Diana summons the book by total accident, she just wanted it for research and manages to open it, everyone starts flooding to the Bodleian Library to pretty much get the book from her. So that is the plot. So I gave this book 5 stars. I couldn't rate it any lower. For a percentage, I'm just, let's do it, 100%. The highest of the land. This gets the ultimate approval from me. This book is perfect for fans of L.J. Smith, Witches of East End, Harry Potter, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and of course the Southern Vampire Mysteries, which are the True Blood books. The themes in this book are alchemy, forbidden romance, history and witchcraft, and the genre is paranormal fantasy, but it's more of a contemporary fantasy because it is entrenched in the real world. The lighting is so out of whack, I'm sorry, but the sun keeps going in and out, so I'm having to change the exposure. This book has a surreal writing style. It feels so real to me, and the mix between the magic and the science, I am living for it. This book celebrates scholars doing research in the library and looking at medieval texts. So this could have gone very cliche very quickly because of the forbidden romance aspect, or a vampire becoming infatuated with a girl. Deborah Harkness does something so different with her depiction of vampires. It goes to the more Dracula-esque type of vampire, that it's more of a horror creature. It is not something to be romanticized, and they're as far from human as possible. And I like that she kept reminding us of that, because sometimes you find out something is vampire and I instantly just, want to fall in love with them and have their babies. No. Diana is a badass. She is a renowned professor. She's an athlete. I mean, who doesn't want to go canoeing in the middle of the night? There's definitely more description than dialogue. So if you prefer to have a more dialogue-focused book, I would recommend listening to this on audiobook. And that's actually what I did, because as much as I love this book to death, I am a dialogue lover. I love more interactions with characters. The descriptions are amazing. They are so vivid. They are so well researched. You can just tell that Deborah Harkness went in so deep with the research. There's just links to everything in history and the past. So that's what I'm going to say for spoiler free, because I do not want to give any more of the plot away or any details. But know this, Matthew Claremont is just the best charmer and the best vampire boyfriend that I could ever have. And yes, he's joined the list of the comrades of men that I love from fiction. So of course I highly recommend this book. It's truly an incredible read. It's definitely more of an adult read, that's what I will say. This is not a YA book. I've seen it shelved as YA on Goodreads. YA is anything ranging from 12 and no. So if you've not read the book and you don't want to know any details, goodbye. So because this book is very long, I'm going to divide this discussion into 3 distinct parts. And those, of course, follow the locations that are in the book. We're going to start with Oxford. The setting, to have it at the Bodleian Library, was a godsend. I mean, it's a book, and if you're reading this book, you obviously love books, so hi. Kind of gave me a high because I was like, look, there's vampires surrounded by books. I mean, now I want to meet my soulmate in a library, just saying. So there's clearly an overprotective vampire in the works here, but I love how Diana calls him out on these things. And she's so snarky about it. Who do you think you are telling me to do these things? I love that. And she wasn't doing it like a whiny little girl, hashtag Bella Swan. So after some research sessions, Matthew becomes very infatuated with Diana. What is this thing about vampires that they love to watch people sleep? Stop it. So then he runs away to Scotland to talk to his friend about his troubles because he doesn't know what to do, you know, he's watching her from afar like an animal. See, remember this thing that vampires are not human. The reason they do these really creepy things is because they're more like animals. So Hamish is Matthew's demon friend. I love the demons in this world. I think they are by far the most interesting out of the 3 creatures. The way it's described is so cool to me. So nearly all the famous people and all the very, very successful people are demons. And I hope we find out more about them in the rest of the series because I'm living for their whole existence. And I was kind of sad that we didn't get to see more demons interacted in the plot. So let's talk about the mini dates that Matthew and Diana started having pretty early on. I was digging it. This whole supernatural fan club when they do yoga together, that was cute. But the dinners is when you knew that it was going to become this whole intense thing, which I didn't think it would because arguably this is only book 1. I didn't expect for them to be so hardcore with each other, but here we are. This is a very romantic book and I'm loving it because it's mixed with supernatural stuff. The Ashmore 782 scene. I love Diana, but girl, why did you put it back without, you know, thinking, why the hell is this magical book just here? That was very silly. I knew you wouldn't get that back. Did you really think you'd just call upon it and it would say hello again? No. So when the creatures start materializing, Nox was so creepy. This is someone from your own species. You don't expect them to just attack you and start threatening your life. Especially as Diana is a bishop, you know? Be careful there, man. And Matthew in that scene where Diana first gets threatened, you could tell he wanted her to get the hell out of that library, but I got this sense that he doesn't want to be a creep and start controlling her just yet. Yet later, when they officially become a couple, she becomes more accepting of his help, and I really like that. A relationship is a partnership. I always find that female protagonists become very confrontational just on principle to show that, oh, they can be independent and they can do what they want. But there is a very fine line between just being stupid and putting yourself in danger for no reason than listening to your other half who is the love of your life, who wants the best for you. I think one of my favourite scenes was when they start discovering that actually they might need to investigate Diana's DNA to find out why she is this special person. When they take her blood and Marcus is like, oh, do you want me to do it? And Matthew's like, excuse me, if anyone takes her blood, it's going to be me. Feels. So when you first hear the premise of this book, you really think it's just going to be this special book that everyone's looking for, but when we start getting the threatening messages and Diana finds out what maybe happened to her parents, the plot got really dark, and I like that about it because I didn't just want this to be a forbidden romance book because I'm not a romance reader. Talking of the relationship, it was hella fast. Let's be real, I'm not trying to sugarcoat this. They literally fell in love like this. But again, this whole thing of vampires and witches not being totally human, it's more that they mated. I keep linking this to Twilight, but I'm linking it to the best parts of Twilight. So you have this whole imprinting thing that was instant, and it's kind of the same with animals. So take wolves, for example, which is the animal that Diana and Matthew keep comparing vampires to the most. They don't take months to figure out whether they're going to be in a steady relationship. They kind of just see this wolf from far away and go, hey, that's going to be my wife. And That's basically what happened here. I feel that their love for each other was very convincing, which I didn't expect because I thought this would be just an insta-love story. But something I really appreciated the most, one of my biggest pet peeves in books, is when couples just have unnecessary problems that overpower the plot. Take the Vampire Diaries. So we were waiting for this certain couple to get together for 4 seasons. And when they did, all they would just have is unnecessary problems. The couples do fight and they have disagreements, but sometimes that really overpowers a plot and you lose everything that was good. But here, they kind of got together, accepted that they were happy, they had disagreements throughout the book, but the plot kept going. But when Matthew did say they were married and that she was his wife, I died. What do you mean? Okay, so I get that you can be boyfriend and girlfriend pretty fast and be in love, but marriage... Sorry, what? So we're now in part 2 of this review, France. My favourite part by far. I wanted to know more about Matthew's family. I found it so funny when Diana couldn't grasp the prospect that Matthew has a mum. When he first actually said it, I was like, wait, do you mean like his human mum? Because I don't think she's alive. But I found it so interesting that vampires can have parents, and the parents are the people who made them. I couldn't warm to Isabeau at first, but she is shot up to be one of my favourite characters. She is the ideal mother figure that Diana really needed, and I loved their relationship develop. So another reason why I love this segment the most is we find out so much about the world building. Even though this book has so many real life events that it's based off of, it still has this supernatural aspect. So things like the Nights of Lazarus being real. When I first read that part, I was so shook because it added such a great element that Matthew is the leader of the Nights of Lazarus, and he's pretty much still a soldier and he has this whole team of people, and when we get to the letters at the end and he puts Marcus as his second in command. Yes. Just pulled up my ebook so I can read you one of my favourite conversations that Diana and Matthew had. I don't know if this scene was meant to be comical as much as it was to me, but when Matthew is telling Diana all about this whole vampire marriage thing, she sassily just calls him husband, and she says, I feel I should point out, husband, that strictly speaking your mother was not protecting you from your wife. I feel like she's sassing him. And then a few pages after that, they talk about the courtship that they're meant to have. And she says, courtship? You've already brought me flowers and wine, now you're my husband, or so you tell me. I feel like Diana is a bit savage and she loves to call him out in these hilarious ways. I wish we had more of sassy Diana in this book, actually. Also, side note, why do vampires not have fangs in this world? I know they have sharp teeth, but it's just not the same. There is a brief break when Matthew does leave her in France and goes back to Oxford. That whole water thing, when she was drowning in her own tears, pretty much, I relate. It was basically personifying a fangirl death. I know it was a very serious scene, she could have died, but I relate to that so much. Having so many feelings that you think you're drowning in your own tears, except it was actually happening. I love that Isabeau was the one to get her out of that. So when Diana gets kidnapped, that's when the book took a real turn. I shit you not. When Satu first took her, I thought, okay, she's gonna keep her tied up on a chair or something and then Matthew's gonna swoop in and save her. None of that happened. Diana had to pretty much save herself. Hashtag goals. I was so distressed throughout that whole part. It felt way too real, and this was only halfway through. Can I just say, that's the biggest point about this. What the hell was going to happen right at the end? I was panicking as I was reading and listening because I had the audiobook and the ebook, so I was switching between the two as I was walking down the street, okay? This part is not a good part to read as you're on the way to a train station because you're surrounded by people, and I was kind of walking really fast and trying to not freak out in the middle of the street, but I did anyway because it was cray-cray. I was hella worried for Diana. Realistically, she was not going to die, but that does not mean that this Satu bitch can do some real damage, and she did. I wanted to hug Diana so much, and I was dying inside at the fact that I was imagining what the hell Matthew was doing. But we actually got a change of perspective and we got to find out how they caught Baldwin, who I will get to later on. It was kind of seeing it in real time what was happening to Diana at the same time as Matthew was trying to find her. So when Satu finishes her torture chamber, that was intense. The whole sequence after that was just whoa. We see ghosts and Diana trying to figure out what happened to her magic, because as we know, she doesn't really want to use magic in the first place. Now we know there's a reason for that, and she couldn't because it was spellbound. Again, going back to these witchcraft legends. Oh, I just love how everything was incorporated into the real world. I felt Diana's determination to get out of that oubliette thingy. When Matthew is at the top of the well thing and she flies up into his arms, favourite part of the book is just everything that happened after that, because seeing Matthew so affectionate broke me. I love when we get these male characters who have feelings, and I know he's a vampire, he's extra protective of his mate, and it was just portrayed so well. This whole feeding her blood thing was hella weird, but honestly, she was such a mess that I felt like I was a mess too, so I kind of understand why Matthew did what he did. And at this point, I really felt as if this was no longer a couple issue. This was a doctor and a patient trying to keep her alive. So I love Baldwin. I shouldn't, but I do. He is hella sketchy, but there's just something about his character that I really like. I really want to know more about his relationship with Matthew pre this book. I kind of feel like he's going to be a traitor at some point in this series. I don't know why, but it's just a sense that I'm having. When they go to New York, I really couldn't warm to Diana's aunts. I really didn't like their relationship with Diana, and I think they were sometimes forgetting that Diana is in her 30s and is just capable of making decisions about her life, and Emily seemed more accepting of the Matthew situation than Sarah. And obviously I completely understand, this is a crazed vampire who's suddenly obsessed with your low-key child. But the personalities were a bit overbearing for me, and it wasn't till Sarah actually developed this sort of bromance with Matthew at the end that I begun to love her. But it took about 200 pages for me to like Sarah. So something I did really love about this segment was that we actually got to know more about the fact that the forbidden romance between Diana and Matthew is not the point of the story. So I like that Diana's powers are apparently the problem and that they've been looking for her pretty much all her life. So this is where we get to know Marcus and Miriam a lot more than we did when they were in Oxford. I love Marcus so much. He brings so much comedic relief to the series. When they first come to the Bishop house and he says, "Hi mum, we're home to Diana," that was so funny. He has these great one-liners where he seems to joke. I love Marcus to death. So Marcus and Miriam start to tell Diana more about her powers and what they discovered by looking at her blood. And they say that time walking is a thing. That's when the plot went to hell for me a little bit, because I do not like time travel. I don't know why. I don't really have a reason for it at all. I feel like it's a bit of a get out sometimes. And the fact that Diana is also a chimera, so she has all the powers in the world, really digs into the chosen one trope, which I do love because it can be done very well. But when they just start dumping all these other powers that she has, which she has never used, it confused me a little bit because there was too much going on. Once they said later on that they were going to go to Elizabethan England, I was sold on the time walking so hard that I didn't even care that I was confused by how it's actually done with all these items that need to be taken. I was just there for it, and I was ready for them to actually go back in time to the 16th century because I loved studying that period when I was at school. The big part of the book at the end was arguably the vampire attack on Diana and Matthew when they both nearly died. So I know they're not going to kill off the main two characters in book one, But I was panicking so hard when first it was Matthew that was hurt, then it was Diana, and it all seemed to be beyond repair, and I thought, okay, this is too much for my sanity because this book is already making me die inside. I mean, after all the torture scenes, and now we have this crazed vampire coming after you, I didn't know what the hell to do with myself. And this vampire coming back from Matthew's past was a great way to sort of bring more of his history. The whole goddess saving Diana, I want to know more about that because that is suspicious. What are you doing just granting wishes to vampires and bringing them back to life because some nice witch asked you? That never goes well. I kind of feel like she made a deal with the devil. I'm pretty sure that's gonna bite her in the ass later on in the series. Sophie and her little buddy, boyfriend, husband, come into the plot towards the end. Am I the only one that thought that she's a bit too good to be true? She comes out of nowhere and she goes, hey, I make your faces into pots and now I'm gonna be your best friend and tell you everything you need to know to survive. Sorry, hi, who are you? Have we met before? I know you're carrying a witch child, but that doesn't mean we can be friends, you know? So that's all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed all my thoughts. If you have read the book, which if you hadn't, I don't know what you're doing at this point in the video, make sure to comment below about any thoughts on the book because I would love to keep discussing with everyone. I can't wait to now watch the show because I haven't yet. I've held off because I didn't want to be influenced. There of course will be a review on the show, so if you have watched that, make sure you're subscribed to see when that goes up. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It will be great help. You can subscribe right here on this button. My last video is just there for your viewing pleasure, and I'll see you next time. Bye!